It is a parental rite of passage, dealing with a less than happy baby. After his mom nurses him and he falls asleep,
We've actually already started.
he is placed in an MRI,
We are running a localizer, which will give us a few snapshots.
where the research team takes images of his brain.
The first days, weeks, months, and even the first few years of life are periods of exponential growth in development. And not surprisingly, exponential growth in brain. The difficulty comes when you're scanning children.
Cognitive neuroscientist Daniel Dilks.
To date, however, we don't know exactly how that brain changes from days to weeks to months to years.
A 10-year study from the NIH is following over 7,000 children to deepen that understanding, including in the brains of babies exposed to substances before they are born.
We need to know what happens to this developing brain after it has been exposed to some substance, for example, so that we can intervene.
Yes, I love the banging. Okay, good work. Look, see the cow?
Intervening and understanding the brains of children exposed to substances is what Dr. Claire Coles has devoted her career to.
Sheep says bah.
A globally renowned expert in the field of prenatal exposures and child development.
Is he babbling? Is he saying da 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 da?
She is one of the lead investigators of this study at 27 sites around the country.
Approximately 20% of women use alcohol in pregnancy. Slightly fewer, maybe 15% smoke in pregnancy. 10 to 15% use marijuana. Maybe 1% uses stimulants like cocaine and methamphetamines, and about 0.5% use opioids. This particular test, is a test that's used with infants to look at development. Flat on his back on the table.
With funding from the state of Georgia,
Good job.
Coles and her team at the Emory Neurobehavioral Exposure Clinic, the only one like it in the southeastern United States,
Can we put him on his tummy?
assess exposed babies and children from birth onward, providing diagnoses and care.
We provide, hopefully, an accurate diagnosis because we get children in who are exposed to drugs and alcohol. People often attribute to the drug everything that's going on with the child. So we try to sort that out.
In 2020, in the United States, 1 out of 12 newborns, 300,000 infants, were exposed to alcohol, opioids, marijuana, or cocaine before they were born. The National Institute on Drug Abuse reports this can double or triple the risk of stillbirth and can cause neonatal abstinence syndrome, in which the baby goes through withdrawal after they're born. All of this impacts a baby's developing brain and can lead to various long-term issues, ranging from developmental delays and intellectual disabilities to behavioral and emotional issues.
We found like 5% of children in first grades had an effect of alcohol.
Coles and her team have treated over 4,000 children and see 200 new cases a year.
The issue is multifold.
The other critical piece of Dr. Coles' work with children, the mothers. Psychiatrist Dr. Toby Goldsmith treats women before, during, and after pregnancy.
I think stigma and fear are the two issues that keep most women from pursuing any kind of treatment with someone, because they're afraid that someone's either going to judge them, or even worse, someone's going to take their child from them.
Dr. Goldsmith says those most likely to use during pregnancy tend to be younger, less educated, not married, and of a lower socioeconomic status. The state of Georgia helps to fund another program Dr. Coles heads up, the Maternal Substance Abuse and Child Development Program.
Those women need to have support. They need appropriate care by people who are willing to work with pregnant women who are substance users, which often is a problem because people don't want to do that. Substance use treatment programs don't want pregnant women, and people who work with pregnant women often don't want to address the issue of substance abuse. If I find out that you're substance using, where do I refer you? Who's going to help you? What is the treatment program available? Not there. And as a result, the woman can't get the care she needs.
A honor roll student, captain of the cheerleading team, homecoming queen, you name it. Like the last person that anybody in my town thought would end up the places that I ended up. This one's me when I was a baby.
Dina Davis was 21 when a boyfriend gave her some methamphetamine.
I knew I was in trouble right away. I mean, the second I did it, I was automatically trying to figure out how I was going to get more. When I found out that I was pregnant with Riley, I had just gotten out of jail.
Davis used meth before she knew she was pregnant with her first child, but stopping was difficult.
Pregnant women do not want to be using substances. We don't pick up meth in our second trimester just to celebrate that we're having a baby. It didn't work like that. If we're using and we're pregnant, we can't stop. I know what that feels like, to wake up and to have to fight the urge to use drugs while you have a baby growing inside of you and hating yourself. Oh my God, this is every single day. It was like a fight every single day. The world was telling me I didn't love my kids. If I loved my kids, I would stop. And that's what I was starting to believe.
After Riley was born, Davis went back to using and had stints in and out of jail.
The first time I saw Riley crawl, my mom brought her, I was in Cobb County Jail, and my mom brought her up to that visitation, and there's that metal ledge and that plexiglass, and she put that baby on that metal thing on all fours. And I watched her crawl across that metal, that cold, hard metal.
That crawling baby girl
Riley is the sugar cookie girl.
is now 22 years old.
All right.
Just thought that everyone's parents, like, you know, spent a long time in the bathroom and didn't have power and heat and food. We weren't allowed in the kitchen because it was, like, disgusting. And there was, like, flies and bugs, and there was, like, fleas in the hallway, and you literally could not go in the hallway without fleas, like, jumping all over you. It sounds gross, but, like, that's how it was.
Oh, the baby.
Riley was 7 years old when her mom got into recovery. That year has a permanent place on her arm.
2008. It's the year I got sober.
I'm, like, super proud to, like, brag about how good she's done. Whenever she got better, she immediately started educating us. So, I mean, I didn't even touch a sip of alcohol till I was, like, almost 20. And even still, like, I don't even, like, drink like that. I've never tried any drugs or anything.
My favorite one is the one with your whole face in it.
We talked every single day.
This is when we did our girls trip last Christmas, right? I feel like they're proud of me, and I know that I'm proud of them.
We know that the more exposure a child has, the poorer the outcomes will be. We know that separation from birth family is going to lead to poorer outcomes. So logically, it makes sense to change our practices and look at prevention.
Peggy Walker is a senior judge in the juvenile courts for the state of Georgia. She is also a national leader in child welfare and juvenile justice policy and spearheaded programs to help children, mothers, and pregnant women with substance abuse problems.
We always hold people accountable for the choices they make, but we have to realize that we have an obligation to serve that child that is not yet born. And we cannot serve that child that's not yet born taking an attitude that we must punish this mother. This mother's going to have more children. And if we do this and we do this well, we can put her on the road to recovery. And the other children will not go through what this child's going through. If we do it right, this child will have minimal exposure and less stressors.
One of the mothers held accountable in Judge Walker's courtroom was Dina Davis.
Hey. So good to see you.
I remember most the fear and the embarrassment and the shame that she was feeling.
You know, I used to say that Judge Walker took my kids from me. And as I've stayed in recovery, I realized that she saved my kids. She saved my family. Still trying to help families.
For 1 year, Dina, now the mother of 2 daughters, worked to stay in recovery while her girls lived with her parents.
Happy birthday, so proud of your recovery.
In 2009, her daughters returned home to her.
They really wanted me to get sober, and they wanted me to reunify with my kids, and they wanted us to be happy.
The experience changed her life so much, she made her lived experience into a career as a certified peer support specialist in the family treatment court she went through.
So if you had told me that we would work together and do this work together and have the same passions and the same desires to better our communities and be able to sit side by side and do it, I would have told you had lost your mind.
All these years later, Davis can say to these mothers the words she needed to hear.
I can sit across from a mom and or a dad and relate that, and tell them, I really do know what it feels like to not have your kids, and you never have to use again, and you never have to be alone again. And if you'll just trust me and trust this process, we'll walk through this hand in hand and you'll come out the other side of this.